Hello, welcome back to another section of A Life Full of Holes, a novel by McConaghy, recorded and translated by Paul Bowles. Apologies for the huge delay in this one. I honestly just have not been feeling very inspired to read my books anyway. Lately I've been reading the news a lot, but I just need to get back into a book. It's suddenly 20 degrees again in New York. That's Fahrenheit, so negative, what did that be, 7 or something like that in Celsius? It's cold. So I'm just huddling up in my room. You guys can cuddle up too, and we'll get started on a section here. I think we're on page 89. Alright, this is chapter 6, Malabata. I was working at the sawmill on the Charf. One Thursday I said to myself, tomorrow's Friday and I won't be working. I'm going out to Tanja al-Balia to see Hamadi in his orchard. In the afternoon they paid us. I went to the market to buy food. Then I walked back to my mahal and cooked my supper. At the same time I fried some fish to take with me the next day. I'll leave the fish until tomorrow, and I'll buy some tomatoes, and I'll take it all to Hamadi's, and we'll have lunch. I got everything ready, ate my supper, and went to sleep. In the morning, I put the food into my kufa and carried it out to the Souk el-Bera, where I took a bus and went on my way. I got off at Tanja al-Balia and walked until I came to the powerhouse. Behind it was Hamadi's orchard. I went up along the path to the orchard gate. I began to call, Hamadi, Hamadi, Ya Hamadi, 3 times. What do you want? Who is it? Me, Ahmed. Ah, Ahmed. He came down to the gate. It's a long time since you've been here to see me. There hasn't been enough time to come, but today I am here. Come in. He opened the gate and I went in. We walked under the trees. How is the city? He said. You know the city. I don't have to tell you anything about it. Yes. What have you got to eat in your kufa? Nothing but bread and fried fish and green tomatoes. Good, let me have it. We'll cook the tomatoes and put them in with the fish. We sat down there. He took out his matui and his sebisi, and we began to smoke, pipe after pipe of kif. The tomatoes were cooked, and we put them in with the fish. Come on and eat, said Hamadi. We sat down and ate. When we were almost finished, we heard a man's voice calling down at the gate. He was calling, Mohammed, Mohammed, because he did not know Hamadi's real name. What is it? Come down, I want to talk to you. Hamadi got up and went to the gate. The man who was there said, if you want to buy some kif, I've got some with me. I never buy kif, Hamadi told him. I grow my own here. But wait a minute, I've got a friend here who's from the city and he's going back there. I'll see if he wants any. Hamadi came up. Ahmed, he said, there's a man here selling kif. If you want to buy some, he'll sell it cheap. Will he? I swear I can get it cheap. Call him, I said. Tell him to come up. He cried, come on up, and the man walked up through the orchard. Salamu alaikum. Alaikum salam. Here's the boy who's going to buy from you, said Hamadi. Where's the kif? The man took the sack he had over his shoulder and put it on the ground. Here it is, he said. Here's the kif. I told Hamadi, talk with him about the price. How much do you want for it? There are 3 kilos here. Give me 200 rials for it. 200 rials is a lot, Hamadi told him. I'll give you 100. No, I can't sell 3 kilos for 100 rials. If you want to sell it, good, said Hamadi. If you don't, it doesn't matter. No, not that price. He went down toward the gate. Then he turned and came back. All right, give me the money. I took out 100 rials and gave them to him. But you don't know me, I told him, and I don't know you either. We're men, he said, not boys. That's right. He went away, and we stayed there. We made a pot of tea, and Hamadi took 3 or 4 bunches of kif and chopped them. We smoked, and it was good kif. Allah, Allah, I said. This is really good. Yes, it's good, but only if I chop it, said Hamadi. We'll smoke this, I told him, and I'll leave you some so you can cut it. And next Friday, inshallah, I'll come back here and see you. Awaka. We drank the tea and smoked the kif. Then I said, "Now, Hamadi, I'm going. It's getting late." "Right." "Allah enek." I put the sack over my shoulder and walked down the hill. I had my kufa in my hand, and I kept going, walking, until I got to the bus stop. I waited there. The bus came, and I got in and sat down. When the conductor came around, he said, "What have you got there in that sack? If it weighs more than 10 kilos, you'll have to pay." I lifted it up and swung it in front of him. "No, it's just a little straw," I told him. "All right." I paid for my seat and gave him nothing for the sack. We drove into the Souk el-Bera, and I got out. Here in the middle of the souk was a sack of kif. I thought, I'll be lucky if nothing happens. I'll go into the Cafe Rahali and see if there's anybody I know in there. If there is, I'll talk to him about it. I went into the cafe and sat down. I ordered a glass of tea, and then I saw a man I knew called Sheriff sitting in the corner. He worked in the port. Whenever he spoke to me, he did not call me by my name, but only friend. "Sheriff," I called. "Sit a little nearer." He came over. "Ah, friend, how are you?" "I have some kif here," I told him. "If you can sell it to somebody here, I'll give you a good commission." "Awaka," he said. "You stay here and I'll go and see if I can find somebody." "Yes, go, I'll be here. You'll see me. He went out. I sat there thinking, I don't know. That sheriff, that one could play a trick. I don't know. Allah Yafud. I left the sack under the table and went outside to watch him go. He walked up the hill. I crossed over to the door of the Joteya and stood there. After a while, I saw Cherif coming back down the street from the boulevard toward the cafe. He was walking alone. "No, Cherif is all right," I said to myself. "He's a good man." I went back over to the cafe and sat down. Cherif came in and sat down beside me and said, "I found somebody who will buy it from you." "Yes?" "That's right." "How much?" "He'll give you 40 rials a kilo." "Awaka," I said. "Where's the man?" "He'll be here in a minute. He's gone to get the money." "Order a glass of tea if you want," I told him. "Make me a glass of tea," he said to the Kahuaji. The Kahuaji made the tea. At the moment he was setting it on the table, I saw two men standing in the doorway. One was named El Mati, the other was called the Frenchwoman's son. They both worked for the secret police. They came into the cafe. El Mati came over to our table and said, "Ah, Sheriff, what are you doing here?" And to me he said, "And you, what are you doing here?" "Nothing," I said, "just having a glass of tea." "And the sack there, whose is it?" "I don't know," I said. "Sheriff, is that sack yours?" he asked him. "No, Sidi, it is not mine, the sack. It belongs to my friend here." "Allah Yawidi, mine?" "When I came over to the table, it was on the floor beside you," he told me. "Nal Alik Chaitan Sharif, the sack isn't mine." The two men turned to Cherif. "So you're lying. It's yours. Come on, both of you." They handcuffed us together, Cherif and me, and Cherif took the sack and carried it. We went up the steps and the two men to the commissaria. They put me into one room and him into another. In a little while I heard them calling him and looked through the door and saw them take him out of his room. I did not know where they went with him or what they said to him. Then a little later they came and called me. "Come on," they said. They took me into another room, where an inspector was sitting at a desk. The sack was there, and so was Cherif, and the two policemen too. "Is this kif yours?" "Sidi, it's not mine. The kif. I went into the cafe and saw the sack there and ordered a glass of tea. Then I saw Cherif in a corner and asked him if he wanted a glass too." "No," said Cherif. "It wasn't that way. The kif is yours. You brought it in and called me over and asked me to go and find somebody to buy it from you." "Allah Yawidi, Cherif, I asked you that?" "Yes," he told me. Then El Mati hit me in the face. "You son of a whore," he said. "You don't want to tell the truth. In a little while you will." The inspector said to Cherif, "You can go," and they put me in the back into the room where I'd been before. I stayed there for 2 days and 2 nights, and no one said anything to me. The third day in the afternoon they came and got the prisoners out of the other rooms and took them away with them, but they left me there alone. Allah, this is it, I thought. They've left me here. Tonight they're going to kill me, these police, but whatever they do, I won't say anything different. That kif isn't mine, and I didn't buy it from anybody. I went into the cafe and found it there, and those are the words I'm going to tell them. And they left me there until night. When it was late, they opened the door. Come out, they said, and my heart was beating fast. I was afraid, and I said to myself, Allah, Allah. I went out of the room into the courtyard. Stand there, they told me. They brought a pail of water with 2 pieces of rope in it. Come on, they said, take off your clothes. I took off my jacket, my shirt, and my undershirt. Sit on that table. I sat down. Take off your sandals. They tied my feet together and fastened a piece of wooden pole across my ankles. Then they lifted my feet into the air and began to beat the bottoms of them with the wet rope. The kif is yours! No, it's not mine. After a while, I could not talk any more. My feet were swollen and the blood was dripping from them. One man said, That's enough. Leave him now until another day. They stopped beating me and untied my feet. Then they said, Now stand up and walk. I tried, but I fell on the floor. Then I pushed myself on my hands back to the room. They came and threw my clothes on top of me. Here, they said. And I stayed in there like that. The floor was wet and covered with mold, and I was lying on it, and my feet were aching. This is real trouble, I thought. In the morning, my feet hurt much more. They brought me a tin can of tea and half a loaf of bread. I did not drink the tea, and I did not eat the bread. I stayed there until 10 o'clock. They came then and called me. Come out! I could not walk, but they pulled me along and took me back to the same inspector. The kif is yours! No! And I said what I had said before. They pushed me into a chair, and the inspector began to write. At noon, the police went out to eat, and in the afternoon they took me to the tribunal along with some other prisoners. We went into an office. A man was sitting at a desk. The kif is yours? It is not mine. And then I told him the same story again. There's a waitress who says you asked him to go out and look for a buyer, he told me. No, CD, it's a lie, I said. I showed him my feet. See what the police did to me? There's a doctor in the prison, he said. That's all today. When each prisoner had passed in front of the official, they put us all into the police van and took us to the jail in Malabata. When we got there, we went inside, and a man said to us, Whoever has money, or a watch, or a ring, he can leave it with me, and whoever has kif must give it to me now. Nobody can take kif into the jail. Not one of us had any kif on him. We knew we could get kif inside the jail. That would be a good moment for a sip of something. Apologies for that, and for my radiator going but anyway, let's see. We knew we could get kif inside the jail. When a man smokes, he forgets he is in jail. He forgets everything. A packet of kif costs a packet of cigarettes. They put us all inside, took away our belts, and gave every man 2 blankets. Go on in, they said. There were about 30 men in the room where they put us. We had gone all day without eating anything, and now we found that dinner was already over. I asked a prisoner about the food there. They give us bread and soup at noon, and again at night, he said. You missed the meal because you stayed so long at the tribunal. The jail at Malabata had been built for Europeans, so the cells still had beds and mattresses. I spread one blanket out on the mattress, lay down, and covered myself with the other blanket. That night, I did not know anyone there. I lay on my bed watching the others. They were sitting in groups of 3 or 4 or 5, smoking cigarettes and kif and talking about the government. I felt like smoking, but I had no cigarettes. I was alone on my bed. A guard came by and switched the lights off and on 3 times. Off and on 3 times. Go to sleep, he shouted. 10 minutes later, all the lights went out. After it was dark and some of the prisoners were going to sleep, I heard a man singing somewhere in the jail. I said to the boy who had the bed next to me, "Who's that?" "That's El Mernissi." "Ah, the one who killed all the Jews and Nazarenes?" "Yes." "How long has he been here?" "It's about 7 or 8 months since they brought him." "He's alone?" "Yes, they've put him in by himself." "Doesn't anybody talk to him?" "All of us talk to him, but he won't take cigarettes or anything from the guards." "Why not?" "I don't know. He said he eats everybody except the prisoners." Does he sing like this every night?" I asked him. "He sings 3 or 4 songs and then he stops to go to sleep." "No more?" "That's all." "And his room, what's he got in it?" "You'd be surprised if you saw his room," he told me. "He's drawn all kinds of pictures on the walls: tanks, airplanes, pistols, machine guns, submarines, everything." "He knows how to draw?" I said. "Yes. Listen, he's singing a song of Kulthum's. He knows some fine songs, but only the ones of Kulthum and Abd el-Wahhab. Tomorrow when you go into the courtyard, you'll see him. He always sticks his head out of the window and talks to us." Everybody knew the story of El-Mernissi. He used to go around the Souk de Dakhel from one cafe to another with a tray of pastries to sell. When we were making war against the French, many people said he was an informer for them. When he heard anyone say that, he would get very angry. One day, he bought 2 long knives, the kind butchers used to cut meat with, and he went to the mosque. When he had prayed, he came out. His friends saw the knives and laughed. "So even El-Mernissi is going to make a sacrifice for the Eid?" they said. "You'll see my sacrifice," he told them, and he ran down the street. In the Hawma Dil Benider, he began to cut Jews and Nazarenes with the knives, one in each hand. Everybody was running. He even killed an English tourist who had just come from the ship. 8 of the people died in 5 minutes. The others went to the hospital. He thought people would stop saying he was an informer if he did this, but the police put him in jail. I was thinking about El-Mernissi, and I was very hungry, but I went to sleep. In the morning, they called us new prisoners into the office. Each one had to take off his clothes and put on overalls sent by the government, and sandals and a straw hat. The prisoners' own clothes they tied up and put away. Then they sent us into the courtyard and we walked around. I looked for the boy who had been in the bed next to mine, the one who had been telling me about El-Mernissi. "Where is El-Mernissi's room?" I asked him. "Over there," he said. "That door over there. The one that's shut. That's his room." "Don't they ever let him come out and walk around the courtyard?" "Not now," he said. "They keep him inside until we go in. Then they let him out and he walks around alone." "Don't they even open his window?" "Yes, when the guards call the prisoners outside to work. After that, they open it." A few minutes later, the guards came to call the prisoners who were going out to work in the gardens. About 30 men went out and 60 stayed behind. "Look," he said, "that Spanish guard is going to open the window now. Wait, you can look in and see the pictures on the wall." The Spaniard opened the window and went away. We went over and walked on that side of the courtyard. When we got to the window, El-Mernissi stuck his head out of the window. He had a long beard. He was talking to a prisoner. "Good morning, Chaib," he said. "A cigarette for me, Chaib?" "I'll go and get you one," said the prisoner. El-Mernissi saw I was new and called to me. "When did they bring you, brother?" he said. "Yesterday." "What did you do?" "Nothing. They caught me with some kif, that's all." Wait, he told me. "Allah will take care of everything for you. Have you got a piece of pencil with you?" "What are you going to do with a piece of pencil?" "Just make some pictures," he said. "Where are you going to make pictures?" "Here." He put his head back inside the window and said, Look at the room. Put your head in and look if you want." I was going to put my head in, but the boy standing beside me touched me and shook his head. I knew he was saying, "Don't put your head inside." "Look in," said El-Mernissi. "I can see them from here," I said. "There's a ship, there's a rifle. I can see them. They're very good pictures. But the one I like the best is the one of the airplane carrier." "Do you know what ship that is?" he said. "It's an English ship, the one called Franklin Roosevelt. It came here once, and planes flew off it and wrote words in the sky. That's what I put on the wall of my room." "Awaka," I said. "I'll find you a pencil somewhere." We went back to our cell. The guard came and said, "Everybody to his own place." So we had to stay inside, and I could not take Elmer to see the pencil. Then they brought me the food from the city in a station wagon and put it in the courtyard. There was no kitchen at Malabata. A little later, the workmen came in from the gardens and went to their rooms. The guards brought bread and passed it out to the prisoners. Then they brought soup. And we ate. Some men slept afterwards. I called to the boy who had the bed next to me. He was sitting somewhere else, and I asked him to come over. "Why did you make signs to me and tell me not to put my head inside Elmer Nussi's window?" One of the guards put his head in and was talking to him, and Elmer Nussi took hold of his head and was choking him and beating him, trying to kill him. If the other guards hadn't come fast, he would have done it. You have to be careful of him. If you put your head in his window someday, he'll grab it. You have to be careful what you say to him, too. If he thinks you're making fun of him, he gets angry. Be careful. At 3 o'clock, the guard came and opened the door. "Into the courtyard," he said. We went out and walked some more. I was thinking, if Elmer Nussi calls me, I'll go over, but if he doesn't, I won't. I was walking around. A little later, a guard came and opened Elmer Nussi's window. He put his head out and began to sing. He was singing, and we were walking around. At 5 o'clock, they told us, "Come on, everybody back into his own cell." And we passed each day this way, today and tomorrow, for 10 days or more. One afternoon, they came to get the prisoners who had gone to the city to the tribunal. They took us in pairs, each one handcuffed to another, in the police van, and we went inside and sat down. They called our names one by one until they came to me. "Ahmed Ben Said." "Here," I said. "Come up," they told me. "Sit down." Then they called Sheriff's name and told him to leave the hall. He went out, and the judge said to me, "The kip was yours?" I told him the same story I had told each time. When I had finished, he said, "That's the way it was." I said, "That's the way it was." "Good. Sit down." He sent for Sheriff, and they brought him downstairs. The judge said to him, "Raise your right hand and swear you will tell the truth." Sheriff raised his hand and said he would tell the truth. "Whose kif was it?" said the judge. Sheriff pointed at me. "Sidi, the kif belonged to that man. He came in out of the street with it, then he sat at a table and put it on the floor. He saw me and invited me to have a glass of tea. When I sat down with him, he asked me to try and find somebody to buy the kif. I said yes. Then I went to the police and told them." The judge looked at him and saw that he was badly dressed and had no jacket, and he said to him, "Why do you tell the police what people are doing?" "Sidi, that's my work." He wanted the judge to think he was a real police informer, but I knew he had been arrested many times and put in jail like anybody else. "I see," said the judge. Then he had him taken out, and he called the lawyer for the government tobacco monopoly. The lawyer began to talk. "This man had kif," he said. "That is bad. People should smoke tobacco instead. We have to finish with kif in this country." He meant that the government makes no money from kif, but it does from tobacco. When he had spoken, the judge thanked him. Then he called the head of the government monopoly and asked him how large a fine he would put on the kif I had bought. The man talked with the lawyer. My apologies. It's really loud. Let's see how large a fine he would put on the kif I had bought. The man talked with the lawyer. "We ask 500,000 francs for 3 kilos, he said. The judge asked me, "Have you got 500,000 francs?" "Sidi, I haven't even got enough money to buy my supper. Where am I going to get 500,000 francs? "Good. Sit down." Then they all stood close to each other and talked. In a little while they separated, and the judge told me, "Stand up." I stood up, and he said, "The government condemns you to 10 months in jail, or if you want, you can pay 500,000 francs and go free." I'm gonna pause right here for now. After a brief intermission and slightly less jackhammering, I'm back. I think I might have switched where the camera is, so apologies if it's weird from one shot to the next. Anyway, he just said you can have 10 months in jail, or if you want, you can pay 500,000 francs and go free. Top of page 102. "Sidi," I said, "I haven't got 500,000 francs, But 10 months passed by themselves, as Allah wills it. And I went back to Malabata, and they opened the door and let me in. They put me into the same cell where I had been before. The prisoners began to ask me, "How much did they give you? What happened?" "Ha!" I said. "We have a government of the wind. There's no justice anywhere in the world. 10 months for some kif. 10 months of jail, and the kif wasn't even mine." "You're lucky to only get 10 months, they said. "You see that Ramari there? They gave him a year for carrying it on him, and they found only a kilo on him." "That one sells it," I said. "I don't sell it." "Well, you're lucky. 10 months will go by like nothing at all. If they want to go by, they'll go by. If they don't, what can I do about it? Whatever Allah has decided. That's all there is and nothing more." I was working, and I went to visit my friend and see what happened, and somebody brought some kif, and now 10 months in jail. Now I've got no work, no kif, and no money. Nothing. "Wait," they said. "I'm waiting." That evening, they brought the soup and gave it to us, and we ate. Then the prisoners began to play parcheesi and checkers and dominoes and cards. Each one had some way of making the time go by, and I went and sat near some boys who were playing dominoes, and I was thinking by myself. One of them said, "You're crazy, sitting there worrying about 10 months of jail. It's nothing. Some of us have 2 years. Some have 3, some have 5. You have 10 months, and you worry." "Each man is different," I told him. "One worries, another doesn't care. Each one does what he feels like doing." "Just sit and wait," he said. "It's happened to you now. Worrying about it isn't going to change anything except that you'll be sick. What Allah has given is given." 10 months in jail is what's been given, I said. "They'll pass." The guard turned the light on and off 3 times. "Sleep!" he shouted. Each man spread his blanket and got into bed. They turned the lights out, and we went on talking. The guard came by. "Shut up," he said. "Don't talk so loud. This is the time to sleep, not to talk." Rakchi, somebody said. "You've got to tell us a story now." "Oacha, I'll tell one if you want, but you've all got to be quick. Nobody else can talk." We all stopped talking. The Marakchi began to tell a story about Sidi Ali of long ago, when there was a war. We all listened. Then each one of us began to go to sleep while he was still talking. When the Marakchi saw that almost everybody was asleep, he went to sleep himself. And in the morning the guard came and said, "Come on, outside." We went out. Some of us took baths with pails of water, others washed their clothes, some talked. At 10 o'clock they sent us out to work. Some worked in the vegetable gardens, and some helped build a new wall. While we worked, we talked. If a man has a long time to spend in jail, they send him to Dar el-Baida. There it is bad, because the work is very hard and there is a lot of it. I was saying, I only have 10 months. For 10 months, they won't send me there, will they? One man said to me, "They'll send you there if you have only 6 months. And you think with 10 months, they're not going to send you?" Allah, Allah, I thought. I've never been to Dar el-Baida, and now I've got to go like this. If they take me there, I don't know what will happen. And that was our life there. Every morning at 10, we went out to work, and every afternoon at 3 again. And it was almost time for Ramadan to begin. On Thursdays and Saturdays, people would come to see the prisoners and bring them food. There was a girl who used to come and see me every week. Sometimes she came with Aisha, her mother, and sometimes she came alone. On one Thursday, she came to see me. I said to her, "Now Ramadan is coming. See if you can bring me a little butter and some olives and some oil, so I'll have something to eat at midnight when they beat the drums." "Awaka," she said. "I'll bring it soon. Next Thursday, I'll bring it all to you." We talked that day a while, and she went away. The next Thursday, she brought me everything I had asked for. Ramadan came. We would go into the cell in the afternoon, wait for the cannon to be fired, eat our supper, and go to bed. The guards would wake us up at 3 o'clock and bring our dinner, and we would eat it. After that, we would sleep again until the morning, and then get up and work all morning. Then we would go in and sleep until 3 in the afternoon. One day, I heard a man called Chaib talking to another in the courtyard. He was saying, "Now you've got 2 years, and that one there has 3. Each one of us has a lot of time to stay in jail, and now Ramadan's here, and we're going to spend the festival in jail, and the Sultan is coming to town for the feast, and we won't see him or anything." The other one said, "And what are we going to do about it here in prison?" We can do one thing, said Chaib. What's that? Escape. Escape? How are we going to do that? We can grab the guards and tie them up. There aren't many guards here, only 5. That's nothing. Look how many of us there are. If everybody agrees on it, we can all escape. The other one said, yes, but we'd have to ask everybody here about it. And they began to talk about it. Every time we walked in the courtyard, those 2 men would talk to the prisoners who had long sentences to serve. Chaib would say to them, do you want to get out? And they would say, yes, if I find somebody to help me. And Chaib would tell them, you've got this one, and that one, and the others. He would give them the names of all the men he had already talked to and who had agreed on it. This is how we're going to do it, and this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it, he would tell them. Awaka, they would say. And Chaib went on talking to the prisoners, and they all said, yes, yes. Then he told them, there are 2 Nazarenes here who have a long time to stay in prison. I'm going to ask them too. If they want to get out with us, good. Chaib could get into the courtyard where the Nazarene prisoners were because the chief trusted him and let him go everywhere inside the jail. The rest of us saw the Nazarenes only when they came to take a bath. The others said that was good if the 2 Nazarenes wanted to go with them. Chaib went to the courtyard where they were and he talked to the 2 men. One was a Galatian who had 8 years, and one was a German who had 20. One night, we were all talking together in the cell. Chaib, I said, that tall Nazarene, who is he? That's the German. He's the one who killed his woman at Al-Aqba al-Hamra. Yes, I said, and who was the woman? She came with him from Germany to work with him here in politics. And why did he kill her? Because she fell in love with somebody else. She wouldn't go with him anymore. She didn't even like to talk with him. How could anybody kill a woman for nothing, I said. That's nothing, what she did. That's the way Nazarenes are, he said. If a woman doesn't like a man or something, he can just kill her for that. How did he kill her, I asked. Just with rocks. He took her in his car, came there to the mountains. They got out and were talking. He picked up a rock and said to her, do you know how much this stone weighs? She said, how much? 6 or 7 kilos, he told her. Take it in your hand and see. She took the rock in her hand. It's heavy, she told him. Then she handed it back to him. He took it and banged it against her head. She fell down. Then he took other rocks and threw them at her. He kept throwing them until she was all covered up. When none of her showed under the pile of rocks, he got into the car and drove back to the Hotel Riff. And they caught him and brought him here, and he's got 20 years. He deserves them, I said, because that woman did nothing bad to him. He had no right to kill her like that. And so Chaib went to the courtyard of the Nazarenes and talked to the German. We're going to escape, he told him, and if you want to go with us, good. We're going to get everything ready first and all leave together. You want to come? Yes, said the German. I'll go with you. Beat anybody you say. Do anything you want. Good, said Chaib. But we've got to tell Miguel the Gallego. It's better not to say anything to that one, the German told him. He's not going to be able to escape anyway. Awaka, said Chaib. When are you going to do all this? Asked the German. Wait, in another 2 days or so I'll tell you. That day went by. The next day Chaib was talking to everybody. You know, he said, tomorrow's Thursday, Visitor's Day. Each one of you who has visitors tomorrow must ask them to bring him some clothes on Saturday. And so each of us asked his friends and family to bring him street clothes so that no one would be wearing jail clothes after we escaped. Aisha came with her daughter, and I asked her to bring me some sandals and a pair of trousers. She said she would, but you must bring them Saturday, I told her. Why do you want them Saturday? You've got sandals on. Yes, but they're broken. Anyway, please bring them Saturday. And she brought everything and gave it to the guard. He called me. Ahmed, here, take this package. It's for you. That night, when we were all in our cells, we were talking together about the hour we were going to escape the next day. We had to be sure that every prisoner understood the exact time when it was going to happen. Tomorrow is Sunday, they were saying, and the guards on duty will be Cherif El Abar, he's an old man, and Ba Miloud, the Algerian, and 2 Nazarenes, and one more outside makes 5. They're all old and married with families, so they'll be afraid when we grab them. But how are we going to do it? They were asking. Hapat and Amar Rifi will begin to fight in the courtyard. The guard there will yell at them and try to separate them, and we'll grab him then. Awaka, awaka, they said. Now we won't save any more food, said Chaib. We'll eat everything tonight. Everyone brought out the butter and the oil he had been saving, and we rolled pieces of rags and dipped them in the oil and butter. Then we set the rags on fire and cooked our food over them. Whoever had tea or sugar or milk had brought it out, and if a man had nothing, the others gave what they had to him. We did not want to leave anything there. All night we cooked and ate and smoked kif in the dark until the cannon went off an hour before dawn. Then we all went to bed before it got light. A little later, the guards came and knocked on the door. Get up! Get up! And we got up. Each man put his street clothes on under his overalls. At 9 o'clock, we went out into the courtyard and began to walk around, the same as every day. In a little while, Hapat and Amar Rifi started to fight with each other. The old guard, Sheriff al-Abar, went to stop them, but when he got near them, all the prisoners grabbed him. One of them hit him on the head with a rock. If he had hit him a little harder, he would have killed him. They dragged him into a cell and threw him on the floor and shut the door. Then they ran to the office and saw Ba Milod there. Some of the men got frightened, and then they began to run back, but the others cried, go on, you Jews! Are you afraid?" Then everybody went ahead. Ba Milod ran out to the other courtyard. One of the Spanish guards was standing there. When the Spaniard saw him with all the prisoners running behind him, he went to the nearest cell and locked the door. I was in the office, and I saw the German come running and take the telephone in his hands. He pulled the wire out of the wall and threw the telephone on the floor. Another prisoner broke off the head of a bottle and ran to cut Ba Milod with it. I grabbed his arm and stopped him. No! He's the best guard in the jail, I told him. Be careful. If you kill him, it'll be bad for you. Leave him and let's go. Then Ba Milod took a big bunch of keys out of his pocket and threw them over the wall into the garden outside. The German found a ladder and climbed to the top of the wall and jumped over. Then a lot of men took a plank and began to ram it against the door. The third time they hit it, broke open. Half the prisoners ran out. The others were still in the office looking for money and other things to steal. Between the men's and women's courtyards, there was a wall with a grill in it. One of the women guards began to shout, "Don't break things! Don't break anything! Just go out! Just run! Run!" And they were breaking all the windows and tables and throwing bottles of medicine and books and typewriters on the floor, and they tore up all the papers and threw them up into the air. Everything. It looked like the war. There was a guard outside by the electric generator. When he saw what was happening, he tried to take his pistol out of his pocket, but before he could get it out, the prisoners threw rocks at him and he fell down. Everybody threw more rocks on top of him, and they smashed the generator. Chaib was shouting, "Come on! The door is open! Go on out!" He went to El-Mernisi's window and said, "Wait, I'll get the key and let you out." But El-Mernisi told him, No, I don't want to go out. You just go." The woman was still yelling, "No, don't hit anybody! Run! Run!" Then the prisoners broke the other door, the one that is on the highway, and they began to run out that way. The guard who was outside was holding his head where they had hit him, and he was crying, "Ay, Imma el-Habiba." Everybody was running, and I ran out the door with the others. It was raining hard then, and the mud was deep everywhere. I decided to go on the highway. I forgot to take off my overalls, and I began to run with them on. A little later, I saw the truck coming from the city to bring water to the jail. Ah, I thought, now they're going to catch us all. The truck's going to get to the jail, and they're going to see what's happened and go to tell the police. I'm going to take the river and cut through to Tanja al-Balia. That will bring me out into Beni Makadi. That was where Aisha and her daughter lived. I was going along the edge of the river. I turned around and saw the German running behind me. I made signs with my hand. "Come on." He had one bad foot. He would run a little, and then he would stop and wait. He was carrying a leather case in his hand. I waited for him. "Here," he said, "take this bag, please, and carry it for me." "Awaka," I said, "give it to me." I began to run again. My feet were going deep into the mud and water, and I was getting tired. I left the river and ran across the fields, and he was following me. Then I came to another stream and thought it was shallow so I could get across it, but there was a deep part there and I went down into it. The water was up to my neck. Yeah, Latif, I thought, this is trouble. If I'd known it was going to be like this, I'd have stayed in jail. The German gave me his hand and pulled me out of the water, and we began to run again. Then I shouted to him, I'm sick of this. Here's your bag. Take care of it yourself. I threw the bag into a pile of brambles and ran ahead by myself. I kept running, running, until I had come out onto the road. There I saw another prisoner named Hamoda, who had escaped too. He was yelling, Run! Run! The soldiers are coming! I was very tired from running. We got to the ruins of the Portuguese fort by the road that goes to Tanja el Balia. We hid inside the ruins while the soldiers went by. It was raining hard, but from where we were, we could see the roads all the way back to the jail. There are no trees or houses out there. The trucks stopped in front of the jail, and the soldiers began to go in all directions through the fields and over the hills behind, looking for the prisoners. And they found a lot of them and were taking them back to the jail. We went into the village of Tanja el Balia and came out behind the power plant. Then we cut across to the abattoir, climbed around the side of the hill, and came out by the bull ring. It was not raining anymore. From there, Hamauda and I went to Beni Makeda, to the house where Aisha lived. I knocked on the door, and she cried, Who is it? Me, I said. She came to the door. What's happened? They let you go? No, we escaped. Come inside quick. I went in and told Hamauda to come in. Are you hungry? She said. No, it's Ramadan. It doesn't matter, she told me. You ought to eat, both of you. And she cooked us some eggs, and we ate them. Then Hamauda got up and said to me, Now, my friend, I've got to go to my wife. It's very important for me to go. Where do you live? I asked him. At Tnine Sidi Yamani, he said. It's a long way off. But you can't go out now, I told him. Sit down. We smoked, and it was Ramadan. Then I said to Aisha, Go out and walk around the quarter. See what's happening. And if you hear any news, come back and tell us. Awaka, she said. And she went out and began to walk around, listening to what people were saying. She heard the radios playing and telling everybody how 60 prisoners had escaped from Malabata. Then she came back and told us what she had heard. You see, I said to Hamauda, you mustn't go anywhere now. Wait here until the afternoon. I have a jalaba I'll give you, and you put it on. Then you can go. He said, Awacha, and he stayed with me there until evening. Then I said, Now it's time for you to go. Here, take the jalaba. How much does it cost in the bus to go to Ettinide Sidi Yamani? You can go for 4 rials, he said. Aisha took out the money and gave it to him. Now you have enough to ride in the bus, she told him. Go. So I said goodbye, and he said goodbye, and he went away, and I stayed there in the house. After the cannon had been fired off, and we had our harira, Aisha went to my mother's house and told her, Your son has come. My mother put her big towel over her head and came quickly to Aisha's house in Beni Makeda. Ayolidi, she said, you're out. No, I'm not out, I said. I escaped. So you ran out with the rest of them? Even you? This morning the radio was telling the news. Yes, I went with them. Now I'm going back home and get you a jalaba, she told me. Perhaps you'll want to go out and take a walk in the corridor, and you won't have any way of hiding. I'll bring you your brother's jalaba. Good, I said. So the poor woman went out into the night and walked to Suani and got me the jalaba and brought it to Beni Makeda. When she gave it to me, she said, Now be very careful. It would be better not to go out at all, but be very careful. Then Aisha told us, That's enough talk. Come and eat your supper. And we sat down and ate. Afterward, my mother said, Now I must go. May Allah be with you, Awlidi. Be careful. Allah hinek, I told her. Do not be afraid. Nothing will happen. She went home. I stayed sitting for a little while. Then I said to Aisha, I'm going out. I want to go to a cafe and sit a while. You know best, she said. Do as you like. She took out 20 rials and said, Here. I put on the jalaba and went out. I went down the road to the bus stop. I stood there for a while. Then the bus came. Allah, I thought, I am going down to the city and see what's going on there. I got on the bus and went down to the town. When I was in the street, I put the hood of my jalaba up over my head and began to walk around, back and forth. Then I thought, I'll go down to the Chinevox. If there's a good picture there, I'll go in. So I went down to the Souk Nadekel. I saw a lot of secret police sitting in the cafes, and 2 of them stood in the doorway of the Spanish telegraph office. Ah, I said to myself, see how the whole town is here tonight. I've got to go into the cinema no matter what happens. I bought a ticket and went into the theater. When the picture was over, I was on my way out. I saw that there was a secret police agent in each corner by the front door, looking at each man's face as he came out. When I saw that, I thought, now they're going to look under the hood of the jalaba and catch me. Wait, I'll take the hood off. So I put the hood down around my shoulders. Then I pulled my handkerchief out of my pocket and held it up in front of my face as if I wanted to keep out the dust. Many people do that when they go out of a building into the street. When I got outside, I put my handkerchief away and raised the hood again because it was cold. Then I went home. Where have you been all this time? Said Aisha. I was in the theater. What? That's right. You must like living in jail, she said. It seems to me you're planning to go back right away. I'm still here, I said. I kept on going out whenever I wanted to. The police saw me, but they did not know who I was, and no one said anything to me. This is strange, I thought. I don't understand. Now there's El-Mati, the very man who arrested me for having the kif. Why doesn't he see me? Why doesn't he arrest me again? Perhaps they've pardoned us all or something. And nothing happened. It was almost the time of the Eid es-Sagir, and I was walking everywhere in the street, and no one was paying any attention to me. The feast went by. One day I was sitting in a cafe, and I saw the police van stop in front of it. The police came to the door, and one of them said, get up, all of you. They made everyone go out and get into the truck, and they took us to the commissariat in the Souk Nadekel. They took everyone's belt and money away, and they locked us inside. I asked one of the prisoners, why are they picking up everybody like this? It's just a raid, he said. They'll let us go afterward. It's nothing. Alhamdulillah, I thought. If that's all it is, tomorrow they'll take us to Souk Ezra and then let us go. We slept there that night on the floor, and the next day they called us. Come out, they said, and they gave us back all our things and made us walk out through the street to where the truck was waiting. They drove us up to the Souk Ezra. We went inside, and they called us one by one and asked us, why were you arrested? Where were you arrested? What were you doing? They had brought people in from all over the city. One would answer, I was sitting in a cafe. Another would say, I was walking in the street. Another would tell them, I was watching the cinema. When they called me, they said, why did they bring you here? And I said, they found me in a cafe with a lot of others, and they brought us all. You can go, they told me. Allah, I thought. Now they'll never put me back in jail. They've pardoned me. I started to walk to the door. Al-Mati was standing there. Aha, he cried. You got out fast. Yes, I said. They're through with me. Come here, he told me, come here. You're one of them. The ones who broke out of Malabata. Allah Yawidi. The inspector just told me I could go. Al-Mati went over and spoke to the inspector. This one escaped from jail. Is that right? I swear. The inspector hit me in the face. Go back inside, you dog. I went back in and sat down. That's it, I said to myself. Now I'm going back to Malabata. I got out, and now I've got to go back again. The inspector went away and came back with the book that had all the names of prisoners who had escaped. He read through the names until he came to mine, and then he said, your name is Ahmed Ben Said Hadari? He said, your name is Ahmed Ben Said Hadari? Yes. Good. Now you've got to tell me what happened at the jail. He wanted to know who had hit the guards, who had broken this, and who had stolen that. Sidi, I didn't see anything. I was playing in the courtyard when I heard the yelling in the Nazarene section. I went and saw the doors open, and I said to myself, everybody's running out. I'm going out too. I ran to the door. I didn't break anything or hit anybody. If you know somebody who says I did, bring him here so I can see him. Awaka, he said. I'll show you somebody. He put me into a jeep and drove me out to Malabata. He took me inside. The guards were there, and they were looking at me. I was afraid, and I thought, Allah, now one of them is going to say I did something. Babulod said to the policeman, this one didn't break anything or hit anybody. One of the others was going to cut me with a bottle, and he stopped him. He told him, no, don't hit him. Alhamdulillah, I thought, he's being a good witness for me. Now nothing bad is going to happen. Then the fiscal of the tribunal told me, you didn't do anything. You're a good man. You must tell us the truth. How did it all happen? I didn't see anything. How can I tell you? I was playing in the courtyard. I heard the noise, and when I saw the door open, I ran out. Awaka, he said. So they gave me the overalls, the sandals, the straw hat, and the 2 blankets, the same as before, and I went back to the same cell I had had the other time. And I saw a lot of the men who had been there with me, but the ones who had hit the guards had no blankets and no food either, only if their families brought them something. They just stayed in the cell sitting on the floor all day and all night. 8 days later, the government called us all. They took us to the city and left us at the tribunal. Then they called all our names, one after the other. The first name was Chaib's, and they told him, you did this, and this, and this. Chaib said, I didn't do anything. If anybody says I did, make him step up here and face me. Then Sharif El-Abar, the guard spoke. That man and another one, he said, grabbed me and threw me into a cell and locked me in. Hear what the guard says, said the judge. Then he called another man and said to him, you stole money and a ring out of the jail's office. The man said, I didn't steal money or a ring or anything. Sit down, all of you, the judge told them. I was the last one he called. You hit the guards. You broke the machine. You stole a lot of government property, he told me. I didn't do anything, he said. Then I told him the same story I told each time. Sit down. The judges got together and began to talk. And in a little while, they started to call our names again, one after the other. Chaib, they said, you had a year? 2 years now. Abdeslam ben Taib, a year? 2 years. Mokhtar ben Mohammed, 18 months? 3 years. Mustafa ben el-Hachmi, a year? 2 years. 8 men got double sentences, but when they came to the German, they gave him an extra 6 months. I was the last one. They said to me, the government pardons you this time. If you make any trouble another time, you'll be punished. Awaka, I said. Then we went downstairs. Thanks to Allah, I thought. The men who made the trouble are carrying all the punishment. They made a lot of noise, but they didn't even manage to stay out of jail. So I lived on there in the prison. 3 months had already gone by, and I had 7 months left. After a while, they had confidence in me, and they let me go outside in the garden, and afterward to the highway. Sometimes they let me go alone to the beach to swim for a few minutes. Ah, I thought, this isn't jail at all. It's more like the Fondak el-Najjar where the poor people live. One night, we were all sitting in the cell talking about the German. I asked one of the men, did he ever get his bag? When they caught him, he wouldn't come back until they let him go back to the river and get it. I thought he wouldn't want to carry it with him. I said it was very heavy. It was full of papers, he told me. Every night he went into his room, he wrote more papers. He was telling how he killed his woman and everything. They let him take a typewriter from the office to his room. He said his papers were worth 1.5 million francs. A newspaper was going to buy them. He didn't want to sell them until he'd finished writing the story. I went on living there, today and tomorrow, until the 7 months were finished. One day they called me. Ahmed, they said. Yes? Have you got anything here in the office? I have a belt and a watch, I said. And money? No money. Here's your belt and your watch. And here are your clothes. Then they gave me a paper. Take this, they said, so when you get to the gate, the guard will let you out. I took the paper, went to the gate, and gave it to the guard. Sign here, he said. I wrote my name in Arabic because I had learned how to do that in school. Good, he said. Allah yanek. He opened the door, and I went out. When a man goes out of jail, it is the happiest day of his life. His heart is open, and he is not afraid of anything. That was the way I felt. And best of all, it was summer. I'm going to go to the beach and swim, I thought. It's warm. I went down to the shore and swam in the sea for as long as I wanted. Then I said to myself, I'm going home to see my mother. When I got there, she said, How are you, Our Lady? Have you really finished this time, not just escaped? Hamdulillah, I said. This time I finished it. Another time you won't try to sell kif? Never again in my life, I told her. Alright, that's the end of that chapter. I think we'll stop there. The sun came out at such a great moment, right when he got out of jail. How fortuitous. Alright, so we'll pick up next time on page 119 with chapter 7. I hope you enjoyed this one. Sorry about the jackhammering. And if you're liking this one, make sure you subscribe so you can catch the rest of the book. See you next time. Bye.